Hello and welcome to our presentation on the HMHI Receiving and Crisis Center Capstone project. Today we are excited to share our journey of implementing measurement-based care tools to enhance the quality of care provided at the HMHI Receiving and Crisis Centers. My name is Jessica Harding and I am joined today by Tavita Anatoni, Brianne Roundy, and Rachel Pollock. First, I will kick us off with talking a little bit about the impact of measurement-based care. For several reasons, measurement-based care is becoming an essential metric in an inpatient mental health setting. Firstly, it allows for objectively assessing treatment effectiveness against patient progress. Mental health conditions often present with subjective symptoms, making it challenging to gauge improvement solely based on clinical observation. By implementing measurement-based care, healthcare providers can track changes in symptoms and overall well-being using standardized assessment tools. This objective data enables clinicians to make informed treatment interventions, adjustments, and discharge planning decisions. By routinely monitoring patient outcomes and treatment response, healthcare providers can identify areas for improvement and implement evidence-based practices more effectively. This continuous feedback loop encourages a culture of accountability, where clinicians are encouraged to reflect on their practices and adjust and optimize patient care. Different providers can easily communicate and share information about patient progress by standardizing assessment procedures and outcome measures. This facilitates coordinated care delivery, where treatment plans are tailored to individual patient needs and implemented consistently across various healthcare settings. Additionally, measurement-based care supports shared decision-making between patients, healthcare providers. By involving patients in assessment process and openly discussing treatment goals and progress, patients become active participants in their care. This collaborative approach cultivates trust, empowers patients to take ownership of their treatment, and ultimately improves treatment adherence and outcomes. So our question was, how do we systematically implement measurement-based care as an integral part of the patient care process to improve patient outcomes at HMHI Receiving Center? This became our problem focus of our project. First, we needed to conduct an evaluation of the current process and what standardized tools were already being implemented, especially by who and at what stages during an inpatient admission. Second, we needed to identify potentially useful tools and decide how they would integrate into the next clinical workflow. Next, we needed to contemplate how we would be able to collect and analyze this data to monitor patient progress. And finally, we needed to make this data useful in order to make care adjustments and report on patient outcomes. Now that we have discussed the importance of implementing measurement-based care, Tavita will tell us about the background of the HMHI Receiving Center. Tavita?
Thank you, Jess, for providing that. I'll go over the background here. The Receiving Center at Huntsman Mental Health Institute. It provides a 24/7 assistance to adults 18 or older experiencing mental health crisis. Staffed by a skilled team of mental health professionals, the center offers individualized care tailored to each guest's needs, including crisis evaluation focused on understanding the individual needs, psychiatric assessment of the person's mental health condition, medication prescribing if needed to stabilize symptoms, the solution-focused therapy, also peer support and case management. Also, it provides recommendations for next steps for connecting to ongoing support, crisis observation if needed for up to 23 hours. The goal here is to help patients receive appropriate care while creating connections to community services. So I'll go over the purpose here for the Receiving Center at Huntsman Mental Health Institute, which provides an immediate support for care for people facing mental health emergencies. It offers rapid assistance and interventions to help individuals regain stability during times of intense distress. Capacity. As part of its growth, the receiving center has added 12 beds, significantly increasing its ability to provide people with needs of crisis intervention and support. This expanded capacity demonstrates the dedication in meeting the rising need for mental health services within the area. Services. As the receiving center has a diverse team of trained staff, including psychiatrists, nurses, social workers, crisis care workers, peer support specialists, and psychiatric technicians. They all collaboratively work together to provide a thorough assessment and personalized care and interventions for each individuals that come into the receiving center. Services that include crisis evaluation, psychiatric assessment, all within a 23-hour period right before needing to be an inpatient stay. So alternatives to traditional options here. It's really understanding the shortcomings of our traditional options like jails or emergency rooms to effectively handle the mental health crisis within our community. The receiving center provides an improved way or an alternative way that gives a more therapeutic and supportive setting where individuals can get specialized care from mental health professionals trained to handle crisis situations. By providing an alternative to jail or ER visits, the center aims to ensure that the people who are experiencing mental health crisis get the appropriate care and support that they need for better outcomes. So, collaboration. So the receiving center works closely with law enforcement and also with MCOT, which is Mobile Crisis Outreach Teams, to improve access to care and develop effective approaches for crisis interventions and mental health care delivery. This collaboration involves coordinating response efforts, sharing of resources, and utilizing the best practices to ensure smooth and continuous care for individuals facing crisis. By partnering with these external organizations, the receiving center works to improve outcomes and support recovery for people experiencing mental health crisis within the community. Okay, this is our current workflow for the receiving center at Huntsman Mental Health Institute. If you look here is a patient flow diagram. So if you look, highlighted in blue illustrates the patient's journey through multiple assessments from admission to discharge. So encircling the patient flow process in purple is the concept of measurement-based care. So within the measurement-based care, there are diamonds in purple, indicating decision points for integrating scales or capturing data for the patient safety planning and discharge. This visual tool utilized to identify which parts of the process could be targeted with scales or tools, or which parts would benefit from capturing data without introducing complexity to the current process. The white boxes here, if you notice there, is the initial assessments and observation highlighted by the receiving center's nursing manager, Nikki. These include the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating, the CSSR, by the social worker's observation during admission, and the ongoing suicide risk assessment by the nurse, and also the psychiatric technician observation charting. By strategically placing these assessments and observation in key points within the patient flow process, the team can gather critical information to inform the patient's treatment plan and ensure their safety throughout their stay. This improved patient flow diagram serves as a clear and concise visual representation of integration of measurement-based care and safety planning into the existing process. It helps us for the healthcare team to identify opportunities for data collection, decision-making, and also ultimately enhancing the quality of care provided to the patients. Okay, so the receiving center that has 12 beds will be expanded into the Kim and Carolyn Gardner Mental Health Crisis Care Center within Utah. So integrating this approach, the center aims to transform mental health care within Utah, integrating training, research, clinical services within a single facility. So this unique approach seeking to provide comprehensive and effective care for individuals facing mental health challenges. So addressing their pressing need. So the studies by the Gardner Institute reveal that nearly 1 out of 5 Utahns struggle with mental illness. So that'd be 20% of Utah. So highlighting the urgent need of accessible mental health services within the state. So the center aims to address this pressing issue by providing high quality, holistic care for those who are in need. So this comprehensive service, in addition to traditional clinical care, this center offers a wide range of services supporting overall well-being, including outpatient addiction services, primary care, employment support, legal aid, assistance with obtaining disability benefits by addressing various aspects within mental health. The center aims to promote lasting positive change within the patients that come in this. So it's established by the Kim and Carolyn Gardner Mental Health Crisis Care Center, has been made possible through the generous contribution and the leadership of Kim and Carolyn Gardner. Their support is expected to have a significant impact in the mental health care in Utah. So basically here's the intensive outpatient treatment, adults needing support, substance or disorders. So it's a 23-hour treatment observation stay for those within our what would be now 30-bed receiving center. Also, it would have a short-term rapid stabilization inpatient treatment within a 24-bed acute care unit. Also, it would have a mental health day treatment for adults that are in need for more help in traditional outpatient care.
All right, so for this section, we're going to talk about the mental health assessment tools. And these are the current assessment tools that we are utilizing in EPIC at the moment. So there's about 11 different ones that we're using, various screenings that we've been using. And this is not something that you guys are new to. You're all familiar with this, depending on the different history of the patient, or if they've depending on their diagnoses as well. So this is what we're currently using. We just wanted to incorporate it just so we can have an idea of what is already been done. So the next one is the mental health quality of life survey. This is one that we've spoken about a few different times, and it really just breaks down the different dimensions. There are 7 different dimensions that are focused on. There's self-image, independence, mood, relationship, daily activities, physical health, and future. There are 4 or 5 different questions for each of these, and depending on what the patient's score is, what we are going to focus on. So the scores range from 0 to 21. The higher the score, the better the quality of life. So we just wanted to touch base on this one, as this is one of the ones that we have looked at and while we were researching to find out which one would be the most beneficial for this project. So the next one is the determinants of health, the social determinants of health. This is a fairly vague one. There are some that range from very brief, like this one, or there's some that are very lengthy and complex. So this one that we have that's listed as the short version focuses on housing, transportation, utilities, and patient safety. These are ones that we've noticed are pretty much across the board. It just depends on how many additional things that they focus on. So we also wanted to mention this and some of the pros and cons for this one. One of the cons being as complex as it is, but one of the pros with that complexity is you get a very good understanding of the patient and what they're most concerned about as far as the social determinant of health goes. So we wanted to include this one as well. Next, we have the subjective units of distress, and this is one that we've spoken about as well. It is kind of similar to the pain scale on rate your pain from a scale of 1 to 10. This one has your level of distress. So it's going to ask you if you're distressed or if everything's okay and everything in between. So this one is a fairly quick and simple way to manage it. A patient could point to it. They don't necessarily have to be able to verbalize it. One thing with this one, we would want to have kind of a breakdown of what 1 means, 2, 3, and so forth, and what each of those mean in the overall units of distress. So some of the cons with this one is it's fairly limited. It gives you a very brief understanding of where the patient is currently at, but it also sounds like that is something that we're wanting to see where the patient is at throughout their stay with us within the receiving center. So this was another option that we were looking into. And then the NCCN Distress Thermometer, this is the National Comprehensive Cancer Network. This is something that they built that kind of combines the social determinants of health as well as the as well as the distressor, for them to get a very good understanding of where the patient is at currently, and then additional concerns that they have, such as physical, emotional, social, practical, spiritual, or other concerns they may have. And you guys can see that this one is pretty thorough as far as physical concerns. It goes into a little bit more detail on what specifically their physical concern is, and so forth with the other concerns that they have. Some of the pros is this is currently being used within EPIC right now up at Huntsman Cancer Institute, and is being asked at patients right now. So we know that this works. There is evidence based to support this. It's also standardized since it's from the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, and it's accessible. We found this just by looking it up and getting some additional information on what the actual form looks like. Some of the cons with this is it is fairly complex, and it's not something that is quick and easy to fill out. However, it is incredibly beneficial and helpful to get an idea of where the patient is at. And then with this, it also gives you a pretty good idea of the target patient population, which is a con and a pro, depending on how you want to look at it, since this is only focused for cancer patients. But a lot of the things, and this is another one that we've talked about, this is one that it's not necessarily, nothing in this is necessarily only for cancer patients. We can ask these questions for any department or any specialty to get a better understanding of where the patient is at. And then next we will have Rachel talk about the project proposal.
So the basis of this project centered around one question: how do we systematically implement measurement-based care as an integral part of the patient care process to improve patient outcomes at HMHI Receiving Center? So the process for this project and implementing measurement-based care is to first evaluate the current system standard tools used to evaluate patient conditions, symptoms, and functioning at various stages of the hospital admission. Then integrate chosen scales into the clinical workflow. Next, collect and analyze the scale data to monitor patient progress, and then use the data to make patient care adjustments and report on patient outcomes. The first scale chosen for this project is actually currently in use at HMHI Receiving Center, with plans to continue its use with the upcoming Crisis Center. This form addresses necessary aspects of social determinants of health that are faced by those suffering from mental illness. A majority of this project focused on implementation of a scale that could measure improvement of symptoms related to interventions performed during admission. Of all the tools that were evaluated, that includes those currently available within and outside of HMHI, there were not any that allowed for reevaluation of subjective symptoms within a short time frame, such as the case with HMHI's crisis admissions. The team felt strongly that the Subjective Units of Distress, or SUDS tool, and the National Comprehensive Cancer Network's Distress Thermometer tool were preferred due to their ease of use and implementation. We combined the two tools into one seamless scale for the crisis workers to easily perform their assessments several times throughout the patient's hospitalization. We identified areas to integrate the new tools into the current workflow already taking place during a crisis admission at HMHI. The team felt it was best to administer the distress tool alongside the social determinants of health form during the crisis worker assessment during admission. Then the distress tool can be used for repeat assessments during the 23-hour hospitalization up until time of discharge to assess for true impact of interventions taking place. In our effort to support measurement-based care at HMHI Receiving Center and Crisis Center, we are hopeful that this project will achieve the following outcomes. The tools can be used to make timely changes to treatment during hospitalization. We can use these tools to track outcomes beyond hospitalization for continuity and successive care. With the addition of this tool, we hope to better assess and treat the subjective symptoms of mental health issues. And by way of efficiency and continuity of care, we hope to maximize patient care processes and workflow, decrease ER visits and extended hospitalizations, and lower recidivism of crisis events. As we were in the discovery phase of this project, there were several ideas identified that could be of value in the future. Adding the distress tool to patient room whiteboards, similar to the commonly used FACES scale for pain, keeps the patient involved in their plan of care and would help make patients aware of their progress during their admission. The Mental Health Quality of Life Survey includes a descriptive system with 7 dimensions and a visual scale for general psychological well-being. This was identified as an opportunity for the HMHI Receiving and Crisis Center. However, a project currently in progress has a similar focus, so this survey implementation will be explored elsewhere. Lastly, compliance and state scope of practice regulations need to be reviewed to potentially expand the scope of which caregivers can administer assessment tools that are standard across the nation. This piece could alleviate some of the work that is landing on the crisis workers and nursing staff at HMHI currently.